So multidimensional leadership is really important so that we don't get stuck in a rut of leadership in one or two favored positions. This is very common. We all do it, especially if we've been successful in leadership. But the danger of that is that we are limited in the way that we can respond to the needs and situations in front of us. Everybody at different times can tap into these 5 leadership roles or positions or dimensions and lead from them, and then switch again when it's needed, and then switch again when it's needed. There is no one way to do leadership. And as I said, the danger of when we get stuck in one space or one way of leading is that it limits our response, and then people will disengage. So my own leaders in this are Henry and Karen Kinsey-House from Coactive Coach Training, Coactive Coaching. The idea of all coactive work is the co part, we work together, we co-create, and active. It's actually something active that we are doing rather than just learning. So I'm going to go through now what they call the 5 dimensions of leadership that they've outlined. Slides with this R. So we always start from leader within, which is almost what we've been talking about when we talk about power. So in the leader within, there are particular questions that we use, and I'm going to go through those. There's also leader in front, leader beside, leader behind, and leader in the field. And I'm going to sort of go through those now. When I go through all of them, what I want you to do is I want you to notice, ask yourself these questions. How do I feel about leading from this dimension? Could be yuck, could be yum. How could I lead more from here? And what would be my first step? And we're going to go through these now. So leader within. Leader within is when we practice living and leading from the inside out rather than the outside in. It's about nourishing self-acceptance and self-authority. It's about owning our power. It's also about clarifying your personal values. So in leader within, we ask, what's walking my talk and what's in alignment with my purpose? So could you for a moment pause and ask yourself, do I accept myself? And do I give myself authority to lead? Notice what comes up for you. You cannot take any other position unless you are in this place first. This is the root of all your leadership. And these are not in any particular order, but I'm going to go next to leader in front. Here's where you practice generating connection and inspiration. You encourage courageous conversations and demonstrate transparency. Take a powerful stand for your vision and encourage others to take the lead. And these are the crucial questions. Ask, what's my vision? And what needs to happen to enroll people? Now, leader in the front is very often what people think of when they think of leadership. They think of someone who's standing on stage or on a YouTube channel or news and speaking what their vision might be. But that's only part of leader in the front. You also need to enroll people to come with you. We were talking earlier about change management. And it's really important to make sure that everyone's coming along with you, wherever they are. And that's part of leader in front. Leader in front. Notice what comes up for you here. How do you feel about leading from here? How could you lead more from here? And what would be your first step? You are going to be talking a little bit more about this as well in breakouts. So I know some of you still might be jotting down some notes, but I'm going to move on to the leader behind. This is where you practice generous, open-hearted service to others. You coach and empower. It's almost like you're standing behind somebody with your hand on their back. I've got your back. This is a classic coaching position. Develop your ability to listen deeply, acknowledge others authentically, be a champion for other people. Ask, what, how, or who can I serve? And yes, this too is a very powerful and essential leadership position. So how does it feel for you to lead from there, to coach people, to say, what do you want to do? I've got your back. I'm championing you. I'm acknowledging you. I'm listening to you. How do you feel about leading from this dimension? How could you lead more from there? And what would be your first step? So moving on then to leader beside. So here you practice leaning in. It's about synergy and partnerships and alliances. You focus on alignment rather than agreement. You build, not block. So yes and rather than yes but. And you might want to ask yourself, who can I lean into or partner with? I know for me, when I first trained in this, I noticed very quickly that this was an area that I just wasn't doing. I've tended in the past to go it alone. So what I looked for and sought out was potential partnerships. And I ended up running a women's leadership program in a big corporate in partnership with somebody else. And it was a huge leading and learning experience for me, which has been really valuable. Plenty of juice there. This doesn't just happen with reports, it can happen with colleagues. You can also create an alliance with people even outside of your organization as well, because leadership can be lonely. So for you then, how do you feel about leading from this dimension? How could you lead more from there? And what might be your first step? Remember as well that these are just inquiries at the moment. And you don't have to figure out what's going to happen next with any of these. And finally, there is leader in the field. And leader in the field is more about tapping into the energy of what's going on. Practice letting go of what is known and proven. Trust your intuition and your instinct. Be aware of your impact, like the energy in the room. Speak the truth. So for instance, a good example of leading in the field is when I might say to you as a group, I'm noticing that there's a kind of energy here that feels a little bit heavy or a little bit edgy or something's going on. Or as earlier when somebody mentioned about what's happening in the world, I could feel some energy in the room and I wanted to name it and open the space out, to get off my timetable for a moment and let what was happening in the room unfold. So here we ask ourselves, what am I sensing and what's needed? So it's a lot more nebulous, but it's really powerful. Sometimes if we just stick to kind of doing our leadership stuff and we're not picking up on what's happening in the energy in the team or in the relationship or the room, we can be missing all kinds of important information. And it's important to name it. So again, how do you feel about leading from this dimension? How could you lead more from here? And what would be your first step? A lovely stance to take with this is curiosity. You might not know what's happening, but we can open up a space just to ask with curiosity. Cami, I think you did a good piece of this earlier when you said, I noticed that I'm feeling very heavy. How are other people feeling? So I'm going to stop the share here and also stop recording.